Hello, everyone. So we are going to be continuing in this series today, and today we are going to be learning data types, specifically in Python. Okay, so your data type just describes the type or the nature of data to be stored in a particular variable. So you can see data type as the class, while the variable that is created in that data type or with that data type as the instance of the object or the object of that particular class. Okay, so we have different data types in Python. We have different data types in other programming languages as well, but here we are going to just see the ones that are common. Okay, so I have a list of them here and we are going to look at them one after the other. We have the numeric data type. The numeric data type has, three major type. We have the integer, the float, and then the complex. The integer is just like your whole numbers without decimal points, okay? And then it has unlimited precision, okay? It can be as long as you want it to be. And then we have our float. Our float is your number with decimal points, 3.5 and all of that. Then we have your complex number. For complex number has two parts. We have the real components and then the imaginary components. We are going to see how to create all of that when we get to the practical section of this particular aspect of the training. And then we have string. Your strings are sequence of characters, okay, combinations or collection of character like your space, your letters, your number, all of that. And then we have list. Now list, if you have heard of arrays in other programming languages, list is just like your array, but here list can allow you to store heterogeneous data in the sense that you can store data of different type. You can store integer, you can store string, you can store which other one, float, and all of that in the same list. Okay, and then you can as well decide that this list is going to contain just the same data type, just going to contain numbers, just going to contain integers or strings alone. So you are left to choose whatever thing you want to store in your list, but you have to know that it allows you to store any type of data. Okay, and then we have tuples also. So your tuples are just immutable lists, like they cannot be modified. Actually, they can be accessed, they can be retrieved, but they cannot be modified. So the next one we have is our dictionary. Our dictionary is just like having, real life dictionary really, where you have term and then you have the description of that term. Okay, your term points to the particular description the same way we have the key, and then the key points to the value. So it stores the values in pairs, pair of key and value. Okay, so we are going to see all of that. So I want us to get right into the practical section and stay right where you are. Open your Google Colab, your notebook, or whatever Python IDE you are using, and I'll see you shortly. So the first thing we have here is numeric data type, and as explained earlier, we have three of them. We have the integer, the float, and then the complex number. So let's start with the integer. Like we all know, integers are just all numbers, whether positive or negative. That means there is no decimal place at all. So let's see. I'm just going to create a variable. Now musical to, okay, so any old number of your choice, print one. So I should be able to see the output. You can add as many as possible number you want to add. Talking about number of precision. So let's see if this will still be a valid integer. Just going to copy this and okay. So it's still printed that. So let's see something that may not be so valid. Um, invalid is equal to. So you can start an integer value with 0. So let's see. Okay, so without even printing, I'm already seeing an error. The statement must be separated by new line. So it's not seeing this as a number at all. Okay, maybe we should just attempt to print. Print. Okay. Oh, leading zeros in decimal integer literals are not permitted. Use an prefix for octa integer. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this. So what we are trying to establish is you can't put leading zeros. You can't start your integer value to zero. If it's going to be a decimal, fine. You can have 0 point something. Okay, so there should be no error right now. So what I want you to do is just create any integer value of your choice. In fact, I think we created something in the last class, maybe sum. My sum will still be integer because I just want to add num1 plus num2, and then I'm just going to be printing sum here. Probably had my mm, Alright, so we have this as our sum. So you can go ahead, create as many as possible integer numbers you want to create. Okay, so we are going to move straight to float. So float is just like the opposite of what we have for integer. Integers are whole numbers, no decimal place. For float, your float can actually store numbers with decimal points. Okay, and can accommodate up to 15 decimal places. So let's just get started and create variables. I might be using the same variable name, okay, but why should I? So let me just create something else. Floats num f1 is equal to 4.5. Num f2 is equal to, okay, what about our 0.56? Okay, just print. Alright, so it's actually quite straightforward. Like I said, um you can actually, is not, you can specify, once you specify the value, the data type is there. Okay, why don't I just print out what data type it has, so that I'm not the one telling you that they are float numbers or they are integer numbers. So let's see. I think we remember this type from the first video. So if I print this, I should be seeing float here. And if I come back here as well, and let's test if this is integer or not. And we see the data type. Right, and also see the type of sum. Am I missing something? Okay, so if you notice, the sum, it's saying sum is not defined, and that's because I'm using capital S here, whereas the sum that I'm trying to refer to is small letter. So we talked about case sensitivity when we're talking about the naming convention in Python. So your Python is very, very case sensitive. This sum here and this sum here are not the same. So I'll change that to, sorry, small m, right? And we are good to go. Okay, so they are all integer values. Just wanted to establish that. All right, so let's move to the next numeric data type that we have in Python, and this is complex. So your complex has two parts: the real component and then the imaginary component. Now the real component and the imaginary components are separated by the using the plus operator, and then the letter J is used as um is specified to, it's used as a suffix, I guess, for to be able to differentiate it from the real component. So let's just create something. Maybe I'm just going to call this um num is equal to, so 3, that's my real part, and then 4j, and that's my imaginary part now. All right, so let's print this. Obviously it's just going to bring that out the way it is. So what if we try to use any other character aside j, maybe I? Let's see. So it actually does not understand what I is, so that's why we are getting the invalid syntax error. So you can only use j. Okay, yeah, so let's perform some mathematical operations on this. Maybe we should add this to a number, an integer. So let's say I'll create an integer number, call it 5. I mean, make it 5, and then I'll create another variable, comp. Then what I'm just adding now is I'm adding this 5 to the complex number. Okay, so if you notice, it's actually adding it to the first value here. So we are having 3 plus 5, and that's 8. So let's try that with a decimal number. So maybe I'll name this b, and then I'll be adding probably 6.2, and then I'll have my another variable called hard comp, or I'll make that hard comp 2 b plus comp underscore num. All right, so we can see this as well, 6.2 plus 3, and that will give us 9.2, then plus the imaginary part. All right, so I think that is it on numeric data type. So they are actually quite straightforward. Once you see that your condition or whatever problem you're trying to solve requires number, using number, what you have to ask yourself is it going to be integer? If it's going to be integer, that means is it going to be an whole number without decimal points? Maybe you're going to be collecting age, and you don't want to have 16.5. You just want to get the exact whole number age. That means you are going to be using integer to store your age. Maybe you want to collect the score of the users that will be using your application. In that case, you are going to be having decimal points, because someone can actually get 6.2, 10.5. I mean, it's also left to you. Then you are going to be using float to represent that. And also there are cases where you use complex, I mean, numbers. Then you already know how to create that as well. All right, so let's move to the next step. So list is like array in other programming languages. The only difference is for list, you can store heterogeneous data or values. So you can have data of different type. You can have integer, you can have string, you can have float in the same list. In fact, you can even have list inside another list. So let's just get started. Create a list. Okay, maybe I'll call this um items is equal to, then you use your square bracket. Yes. And then everything that you want to add, you add them and then separate them with a comma. So maybe the first item in my list will be item 1, then comma item 2, okay, item 3, item 4. Oh, I can actually add integer. 4.5. Yeah, I make that like that. Item 5. I mean item 6. Okay, so this is just a random list, might not make sense. All right, so you can create another list. Item is equal to, so this will just be list of numbers. 4, 5. In fact, list of integer numbers. Okay, then I can create list of floats. Okay, so I'm okay with that. So I'll actually be using the first list. So how do we access the items in our list? So we are going to look at the basic way of doing it, and then there is a neater way of doing it, which is to use your loop. But I don't want us to jump into loop now. So when we get to that part, we'll still use the list we create here as example, or create a new list to see how to use your loop to iterate over and print out items from your list. All right, so let's just basically print out what we have here first. So the first thing I want to do is just to really print items. So if I say print items, I'm going to just see the list of the things I have here, yeah, the way they are, come out like that. But what I want to do first is let's access each of the item one after the other. So in Python, your indexing starts from 0. So each of them has an index position or index number. So we are going to have the first one starting from 0, the next one 1, the next one 3, the next one, the next one 2, 3, 4, and like that. Okay, so the same thing with this, start numbering from 0 up like that. So let's see, how do we index using the same square bracket? I can say items at. When I say at, I'm not typing at, I'm referring to this square bracket in this context as at. So items at position 0. So I'm expecting that it's going to print item 1, this particular one had for me. So can I just add a print statement and see what it prints? Print. Okay, so can we see item 1 here? So if I change this to item at position 7, let's see if there is any height such, if there is a such item like that. So can we see? So there's no item like that. So it says index error. So you get index error when the index you are trying to reference does not exist. So let's count this and see. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this actually stops at 6. So you can't be accessing index 7. So it does not exist. So if I change this to 6, it's going to print out the last number for me. So let's see. Yeah, so we have item 6 at index 6. Right? So let's see, we can also access our list or index our list in a reverse order. So what if I want to start from the end? So the only difference is going to be, it's going to be numbering from -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, and -7. So let's try that. I'm going to be printing items at position -1. So I'm expecting that it's going to print the last number. The last item 6. So I should, yeah. So we can see the second item 6. The first one is for the normal, this one that we have here. All right. So what if I want to print the second to the last item? Obviously, I'm going to be putting 2 here, and then I'm expecting to see 5. Yeah. All right. So it just depends on you, however way you want to go. What if I want to print -7? Yeah, and that's item 1. So item 1 is at position -7. If you are going the negative number, if you are going to be using positive, item 1 is at position 1. Okay, so let's see slicing. Okay, so slicing is just a way of accessing your list, but in this case you are trying to extract a particular subset of your list. So let's see, I'm going to be printing item. So you are printing more than one item, you're extracting more than one item at a time. So I'm going to be taking the first two. Yeah, so I'll explain what this is, but I want us to see the output first. Okay, in fact, let me just highlight, comment this out, so we have a clean output. All right, so we see it's printed item 1, item 2, item 3. So how does this work? The first value here is your starting index, and then this one here, it's your stop, where it's going to stop counting. Do you understand? So you can see it as counts actually. So if it's going to start at position 0, it's going to pick the item here, go to 1, pick the item, go to 2, pick the item. Now, the last index is not, I mean, the stopping index is not inclusive in the data is going to extract when it comes to Python. Okay, I don't know if that is applicable in other programming languages too. Okay, but this last one, this last index is not going to be included in what is going to bring out. As you'll be expecting to see item 4 as well. Okay, all right, so let's see, let's explore this more. What if I want to print all the items up until the second item? So all I have to do is to, put my full colon and then put the last index. So let me see. So can we see what it does? It's going to print from 0 down to that 2, but we should also remember that it's not going to include 2. Okay, so we have this 0 and 1. That's what it's going to print. What if I want to print everything? So I'm going to have, yeah, so this full column is going to print everything. So when you specify full column like this without specifying a particular value, what it does is that it's going to use default value for the start, for the starting index, and default value for the ending index. The default value for the starting index is your 0, while the default value for your ending index is n minus 1, where n is actually the total number of items in your list. So where you have 8 items in your list, that will be 8 minus 1, that will be 7. So it's going to print the entire list out for you. Okay, so let's leave that. And this also can be that you want to print from the third item up to the last. So let's see what this is going to print out for us. Yeah, so the third item here is the third index is this, and then it's going to print it up like that. Okay, so what other thing can we do with index and slicing? I think that should be, yeah. So you can also specify a step. So for example, I want you to extract a particular subset, but I don't want you to extract it serially like that. I want you to jump some step or two. Okay, so let me just make sense of that. So it's going to start from 0. It's going to be going through the list, stop at index 7, and then it's going to be, okay, stop at in, let's see, it's going to be bringing out, how do I explain this? Coming, I want to comment this out first. All right, so let me explain what this is doing. It starts at index 0, pick the value here, print it here, go to index 1, print the value. Now it's not going to go to index 1, it's going to skip 1 because it's not moving at one step. The default step when you don't specify any step is 1. So that means 1, move from the first one, second one, third one, up like that. But if it's going to be moving at 2, so that means it's going to be item 1, then skip the next one, item 2, skip the next one, item this one, skip this one, and then print this one. So we can see the step that it's moving to. If I change this to 3, let's see what is going to happen. So I'm expecting to see it picks the first one, skip the next, and then skip the next because it's 3 steps down, and then picks this one. Then skip this, and then pick this. So we see how that is working, right? All right, so let's see. What if we want to update the value in our list? To update value in your list, it's actually quite straightforward. I have 2 methods I'm going to show us. The first one is this: specify the name of the list. So the name of the list I'm accessing is items, and then use your indexing. Specify the index of the list. So I'm going to be changing the first item in this list. Or yeah, let me just change the first item. Then with your equal sign, assign a new value to it. So I'm going to be assigning in fact I'm going to be assigning an integer value. I'm going to change this item 1 to 1. Then let's print the list after. So I'll just say after updating, and then I'll have items. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to comment this out as well. All right, so we see before and after. So after this item 1 has been changed to an integer value 1 here. So that's one method. Another method is to use your append. So this is a list. I want to append a value to it. I'll specify the name of the list. Then I'll use my dot. When you're referencing a function or a method, yeah, you can see there are different things you can use here. There is pop, there's remove, there's reverse. You might get them. There's count. They have different function. There are 7, but the one we are using right now is append. So list dot append. Then in bracket you specify the value you want to append um to these, right? So I'm going to be appending mm, item 7. So what append we do? Append we add the value to the end of the list. Unlike the first method we had a value or change the value at the position at the index that you specify. Why dot append is just going to add the value to the end of the list. So let's see this. Yeah, I'm still going to be using this print statement. Okay, so I'm expecting to see this new list, but then with another item or element in it, which will be item 7. So let's see item 7, and then we have this now. Okay, so yeah, I have to rush through that, but I hope you are able to, pick something from it. So I'm going to give you a simple task. So the task is that you are going to create a list of 10 items. You are going to access the first one. The first After creating the list, the first thing you will do is to access the third element in that list. The next one is to access the fifth element in the list, and then access the first to the sixth element in the list. Yeah, so I think that is okay. Maybe I should just add to your tax. Okay, the next thing is to um change the value of the fifth element, and I'll add another one. Add 2 more values to your list. All right, so thank you very much. We'll move to the next one. Okay, if you have any question, make sure you're dropping your question as you're watching. I'll pick them and then I'll respond to them.